Hey everyone, welcome back to Ben Robinson Guitars. Today we're going to do a full setup, so let's call it Setup 101 on this semi-hollow body of mine. I call this thing the Lineage. It is just an absolute beast. A huge tone, huge sustain, probably one of the most expressive guitars that I make. It's just absolutely amazing. So I don't even have the electronics in this guitar yet, but we can do a full setup. I've never even had strings on this guitar, so let's walk through this, and I'll show you how I do it. So when it comes to setting up a guitar, let's say one that you have, it doesn't even have to be one that's brand new. First thing you're going to want to do is release the strings, and don't just string tension and just snap them off and everything. Just loosen the strings, cut them. I use a pair of side cutters. And unspool them from the tuners, get it out of the bridge. We'll be ready to go for new strings. So once you do that, that's a great time to go ahead and just clean the guitar really good. Go ahead and clean the fretboard, clean the headstock, clean the body. Just clean it as much as you can. A lot of different products you can use. As far as what I like to use, not on the fretboard. Most of the time, I'm just using some kind of oil to clean up the fretboard. But for the body, the headstock, any of the chrome parts, really what I like to use is an automotive like quick detail kind of spray. And it's got a little bit of wax in it, and you can spray it right on your clear coat, whether it's nitro or urethane or whatever it is. You can spray it, put it right on there, wipe it on. If it's got a little bit of wax on it, just let it dry for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and then use a dry microfiber cloth or something like that, and just wipe that powder, that wax off there. Shines everything up really good. It's pretty quick and easy. And that's literally what I did with this. And I mean, you can just see how much gloss is there. It just shines. So clean it really good. Get the strings off, clean up the body real good, and you'll be set. The second thing to do when everything is loose, it's a great opportunity to check and tighten hardware. Inevitably, the tuners are going to be loose. So tighten them up here. Tighten the screws in the back here. You can go ahead and tighten the ones in the back. Pickups. The pickup covers. Tighten if you see a screw or any kind of piece of fastener or mechanical fastener of any kind. Tighten it. Those are going to come back and haunt you later because it'll be a loose one and you'll get a buzz and it's like, where is this buzz coming from? A lot of times it's literally from something that is loose. All right, next, once you've got the guitar clean, everything is tightened the way that you like it. Go ahead and let's get the new strings out and let's start stringing that guitar up. Now I like to use 10s. I'm going to check the camera here and we'll get you turned down. All right. Make sure we're plenty visible here. All right. So I like to use 10s I mean, it's whatever the customer wants, but 10s for electrics are my favorite. And when I'm doing this, I like to lay my strings out kind of in the order that I'm going to put them. And I have all my tools and everything laid out. This particular guitar has a Tune-O-Matic style bridge. So I mentioned I'm just looking to see what the intonation is probably going to be. That probably looks like it's going to be relatively close. It's all going the right direction. And that bridge there looks pretty good. I get some glasses on so I can see a little better. And I've never had strings on this guitar, so it's going to come out fine. The guitar hasn't even made a sound yet, but we're going to string it up and we're going to see what this guitar sounds like. On a Tune-O-Matic style bridge, I always start with the heavy string. Don't ask me why. It's just what I like to do. So I'm going to get this one in there. Now these are locking tuners. Now I put locking tuners on all my guitars, and I just like them. You know, with a tunematic style bridge, I don't think it's necessary, but I standardize on the tuners that I have. And the other thing I like about these is they're a higher ratio. I think it's either a 19 or 20 to 1. So you get much more control over the tuning. There we go. Now, being how this is the first time that this guitar has had strings on it and locking tuners, I'm going to give myself a little bit of extra string length, or a little extra on the wrap, in case I need to adjust. You know, we're going to be adjusting the truss rod. We're going to be doing all those things. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of extra string length. I'm going to jump in here. This is something that is great, and it's very easy to do and very easy to understand, and it works every single time. If these were not locking tuners, I'm going to kind of put a little bit of string tension on here. I mean, it's not a lot, but I'm pulling it tight, making sure that there is no slack anywhere on this string. Then what I'll do is I'm going to put my finger right on the nut, and I'm going to bring it back to the first fret, and then I'll start the wraps. That distance right there, and I do that for all the strings. That distance is perfect. I get probably two wraps here on this post, and then when you get to the high E, it's a little more than that. But it's always the same, and you get a lot of consistency that way. So a little tip, you guys can use that on your own. Now, being at these are locking tuners, I am not going to go that much. Because I don't need to. I'm going to go probably a third. I'm going to pull it back roughly a third of the way back on that fret. And I'm going to hold the string up so I get tension on the tunematic bridge, and use my tuner. Now I locked the bottom, and we're going to go ahead and wrap this. And I want to make sure you guys get in here and see this. Now this is the way that I do it. I mean, there's a lot of different ways of tightening the strings up, but you can see, tunematic bridges always want to fall off. So I've got this wrapped around halfway, and I got the tail here. I'm going to put that tail underneath the string here. Hey, you see that? So we went underneath that string, and that's plenty of wrap for locking tuners. And once I get him around, I raise him up. So now he's coming up at a 90-degree angle from the post, and I'm going to keep turning him, keep turning, and I'm going to get this other wrap. If it lines up right, we're going to get that wrap underneath where I went in the post. And the other thing I do, I always over tighten them the first time I put them on there. I always over tighten them, for the simple fact that it effectively pre-stretches the strings. All right, so I'm going to move the camera back a little bit so you can get a little more of a different view. I just use a pair of side cutters and trim that tail right as close as I can get it. I've strung a lot of guitars, and this method has never failed me. So once I get the low E string, I'm going to go and I'm going to put the high E string on and get him unwrapped and thread him in. And we're going to follow the same process. All right. right, so I got him tight. I'm happy with where he is, and I'm going to pull it back about a third of the distance between the nut and the first fret. I always put a little bit of tension with my hand on there, and I almost wrapped him the wrong way. And around we go. Again, the tail goes underneath. Once I get him underneath like that, I go ahead and I pull him up, and we keep tightening. There we go. Oop. And it fell off the, there we go. I'm going to over tighten him. Well, that's probably actually pretty close. And we cut off the tail. Alright, so 2 done, 4 to go. And from here, once I get these, you know, the 2 outer strings on, the only reason why I do that is so that this tune-o-matic style bridge is not gonna move on me. So generally, once I get the high E, I just start with the A and then the A string, and I just follow them down. And I leave my, and if you can see this, I leave my strings laid out. And that will become more important here in a little bit. All right, everybody. So we've got the strings on. They are all over. They are overly tight. And next thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to tune it to pitch. I don't have the electronics in it, so I'm just going to use a clip-on tuner here. And as a builder, this is how I want to describe it. This is the moment of truth. You know, you've got all this time, energy, and effort into creating and building a guitar, and yet you haven't heard his voice. And I am just about ready to hear the voice of this guitar. So I'm kind of very curious. Now I always do this, and when I do this, I put the guitar in the playing position, and here we go. So all these are going to be overly tight. I do that on purpose because it helps me kind of pre-stretch those strings. All right. And when you're tightening, or when you're tuning, and you guys know this, but when you're tuning, always tune up to the final pitch that you're after. If you go too sharp, roll it back down a flat. Here we go. That's a big sound, and it's only going to get better. This guitar is amazing. All right, once we restring, the next thing we're going to do is check the relief. Now here's the thing. When we do the relief, we've got to mess with the truss rod. And people are afraid of the truss rod. And you don't need to be afraid of the truss rod. You just don't. A couple things to be mindful of the truss rod, and if you do it right, everything is going to go great. But we're going to need a capo. So I got a capo here. I'm going to capo fret number 1. We're going to do that, and then again I'm going to hold. I'm going to get a feeler gauge here. I always start off with a 10,000ths feeler gauge. Capo, it's tuned to pitch, capo on fret number 1, and get it kind of in the playing position. I'm going to push down on the fret right here. I'm going to push that fret down where the neck meets the body. Now if it was a bolt-on neck, I'd come all the way to the last fret. This being a set neck, I'm going to come here where the neck joins that body, so right there. And really what I'm doing is I'm using this string as a straight edge. So I've got it pinched there, I'm using my finger pinched there, and I'm going to come, and I'm not going to tell you the fret number because it's going to be different based on your guitar, how many frets it has, and just other things, and particularly where you're fretting this last one, where it meets the body. So literally, I eyeball the center line. I'm going to eyeball the center line between the capo and my finger right here, and I'm going to run that feeler gauge up between the string and the fret. All right, now I'm going to put it down so I can see it a little better on my end, but that's exactly, let me see what you guys are seeing here, but that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm holding it right there, coming in what I view as the midpoint, and I'm running that down. And I'm not getting any movement at all. So when I slide this feeler gauge between the fret and the string, I'm looking for just an ever so slight movement of that string up when I put the feeler gauge in, and I'm not getting a thing. There's nothing there. The other thing you can do is set that feeler gauge in there and just get an idea. And I need to work on the truss rod just a little bit. And this truss rod just uses a hex key, because again, you've heard me say 1,000 times, I like to use dual action truss rods, particularly when I do fret leveling and so on. And this guitar's had the frets leveled, so it's not really a surprise how I landed here. I leveled the frets, and when I did that, I had this neck dead flat. I put my my gauge on here. I was using a 3,000ths feeler gauge, trying to slip a 3,000ths gauge underneath that gauge between the top of the fretboard and the gauge, and it was just dead flat. So as I've added all this string tension, this neck is getting pulled this direction, right? So I'm going to counter that, and we're going to counter that with the truss rod. We're going to tighten up that truss rod, which is going to come back, and it's going to want to move. It's going to work to move this nut back down into the workbench. Now, and let me get him in there. All right, so I've got it in there. Now, if you want to tighten that truss rod and move the neck down, when you're in this position here, I'm going to move this string back, give me a little more room. I'm going to pull that or rotate that truss rod nut towards me. All right, and a little dab will do you. You don't need to go crazy. I'm going to add just a little bit more because I had quite a bit of. So I probably gave that maybe an 1/8 of a turn, I'm going to say, and it wasn't really hard. There definitely was some tension on it, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to strip this thing out. If you get to the point where you need more of this, get this nut down into the workbench here to counteract this string tension, so the neck is really sloping up like this. Loosen the strings. Get the strings completely loose. Completely loosen the truss rod. Put this thing in a clamp that actually introduces back bow if you absolutely have to. But this guitar, I don't have that trouble. I don't have that trouble. So I'm going to check again. So I'm going to get this guitar here again in the playing position. Capo on fret number 1. Come down, and here's the thing. And listen, I'm just gonna. all I'm doing is tapping on the high E string, or the low E string, and you can almost tell by the tap how much gap is in there. The more you do this, the more of those things you just get going on. And okay, so I gave it about 1/8 of a turn, and you're not going to be able to see this on camera, but I'm sliding this feeler gauge between the fret and the string, right at mid span, and I can just see that string raising ever so slightly when I slide this under. So it's probably got, a 10,000 shim has probably got maybe an 8,000 relief, maybe a 9, somewhere in there. And that's to me, that's a sweet spot where I like to shoot for. And it's the same on the high E string. Probably getting maybe a little more movement on the high E string than I did the low E string, but really they're actually they're really close. So I'm going to call that good from a truss rod perspective. The other thing is, a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, I've got to adjust the truss rod to get the action of the guitar the way that I want it," and that's completely false. The truss rod's sole purpose is to counteract string tension. And the way that you're going to know that you're in the right spot is to measure that relief. Capo 1, fingers across here, and measure the gap mid-span. Always do that before you set the action on the guitar. All right, so once we have the relief where we're happy, we're actually going to start checking the string heights. So again, capo, and I capo number 1, and the reason I do that is because it takes the nut, any variation in the nut out of the picture, and I'll be very consistent. And I just have a formula. A lot of people will use feeler gauges, and they'll measure string to string. There's very purpose-built precision tools that you can use to validate string heights and set the action and so on. I'm not against those, but this is a guitar. It's made of wood, and it's going to be right. It's going to be what you set it that moment, and then the temperature is going to change. Humidity is going to go up a little bit. It's going to go down a little bit, and it's going to move ever so slightly. Now they should all go relationally, but I'm not one to go to that, those crazy, not in crazy is the wrong word, but fancy tools. A simple string gauge is just an absolute powerful tool. And the example, and I use this gauge down here, and these are just measuring in thousandths of an inch from this bottom edge right here. So all I do, I'm just going to demonstrate it with a 3x5 card. So if I'm shooting for a 60 thousandths, and that's what I'm going to shoot for on the low E string, I'm looking, and when that string crosses, I want to just see, right? That's my 60 right there. I just want to just see that line, and I'm going to set it at that. And then when I get to the high E side, me personally, the way I set them up, if I set the low E string for 60 thousandths, I'm going to drop 20 thousandths. So I'm going to set that high E string right here at that 40 number. So again, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to raise that bridge or lower that bridge so I can just see that line right there for the 40 thousandths. So that's what we're going to do. And being a two-pneumatic bridge, that's these are like super easy. And right now on this low E string, when I adjusted the truss rod, I'm saying it's like 30 and 30 thousandths, and it's probably 30, maybe 35 on the high E string. But you can always tell. Just listen. I'm not getting any buzz. I mean, this. If you wanted super low action, there's a little bit there. Very little. You know you've got a good fret job when you're sitting here at, you know, 30 thousandths between the string and the fret, and you're not getting any buzz. I mean, you can, this guitar's getting just a little bit in a couple spots there, but this is crazy low action. Crazy low. All right, so back, capo number 1 again takes the nut out of the equation, and we're just gonna raise this guy up. And that's probably about what I'm gonna need there, and that's probably about what I'm gonna need there. And we check, and again, I'm shooting for 60 thousandths, use my gauge, and I made it up. I'm a long ways. I made it up to maybe 45. Okay, I'm about 55, just a little more. A little more, I'm just under that 60 number. All right, went a little too far. I'm about 62, maybe 63. And as you can tell, I have the shop helpers with me today. All right, so the low E string is sitting at 60, and I actually went a little too far. So we're going to drop the high E string, and I say I shoot for 40. I'm actually shooting for about 42, maybe 43. I don't quite get down to that 40 number. Now the other thing is when you get a tune-o-matic bridge, and I did this particular bridge, I have a 12-inch radius on this fretboard, and this here bridge that I purchased when I built for the guitar build, this is also a 12-inch radius. So I set those outer 2 strings. I'll check just to see what I get, and that's, you know, about 58. He's sitting about 52. He's sitting right there about 50. I'd say 40, 46 maybe, and then he's about 42, 43. So it matches really well. All right, now that I tightened everything, we're going to go ahead and put the clip back on. We're going to get the clip back on and get this tuned back up. And now you know why. Now you know why. I mean, if you've noticed, I've continued to lower the pitch of this guitar, and in doing so, I keep, you know, lengthening this string, and my number of turns on the post is getting smaller and smaller. So I do that on purpose. I don't know where I'm going to be, and I always want to make sure that I have enough string length the first time that I do this. Now next time when I restring, I won't give nearly as much slack. Oh man, listen to that. Listen to that. Listen to that. Just listen. I hope you can hear it. Sustains forever. All right, we're back to being tuned. Next thing we're going to do is check the nut height. And this is where you're gonna need some nut slot gauges. And I've got two different versions here. I've got some of the StewMac ones. They've worked really good for me. And then I don't remember what this other brand that I have. I don't remember where I got these. I just don't remember. But I purposely got two sizes. I've got some for you know, a thinner string gauge like 9s, and then I've got a larger set for 10s, and then what I'll call light acoustics that go up to like a 56 or, you know, 56 on that low E string. Now the thing about these is they're radiused down here on the bottom. This file is actually curved to match the diameter of the string. Now I like to use, you know, I'm a simple tool guy. If I'm going to use tools, let me see, make sure you guys can see. If I'm going to use tools, I like the simple tools. And Music Nomad's got this this gauge, and I love this thing because it just takes all the guesswork out, and it gives you repeatability. It's a simple tool, and once you get used to using it, it's great. So they're labeled, so low E and A on the guitar, so it's 20 thousandths. So you're literally going to check, and you slide. Let me get the camera in here a little closer so you guys can see what in the world I'm doing. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm taking, and it says low E and A, and I'm going to slide that right under, okay? And I hope you can see it. There's movement there on that, when on the string as I press it down to get to that gauge. And it's on, this one's not so much. I don't need to do very much on the A string, but the E string definitely needs some. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull that string out of its slot, and I protect the frets. I just put some tape on there to protect the frets. Now this, it's a 10, so this is a 46 diameter string. So what I'm going to do, what I found that I like to do is I like to use, grab the wrong one. I like to use a 50, so it's 4 thousandths thicker than the string, okay? And I'm going to move the camera this way so you can see, maybe see, and I can work a little better. All right, let me see what we got here. Okay, so this is a 50. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to slightly just use that, and then I round it down to match how the curve of that string, as it breaks over this slot, I'm kind of following that curve. Okay, now blow any dust out, throw it back on, and again I check a little. Don't get aggressive. You don't want to go too far. All right, so I didn't really adjust it much. Now, why in the world do I use a 50? Okay, and you wouldn't think I would be. That's too big. Well, what that does, what it allows me to do is it's wider. That 50 makes that slot wider than what the string is, so I'm not going to get any binding on the edges. All right. And you think, oh, well, that's going to give you string buzz. We're not done yet. Just hold tight. Okay, that's very close. I mean, I'm getting just a little bit of movement there, but it's very close. So now what I do is I come back, I set the 50 aside, and I go back and I get the 46. This is the diameter. This is the diameter of the string. And I come back and I find that center, and I finish it off with this. So that's where that string is actually going to ride, right there. Blow out the dust. So it's a wider slot, and I mean, there is just, I could probably go just a tiny little bit more, but it's so close. I don't want to go too far, so I'm actually going to stop right there. I'm going to hold that string up, and then I'm going to check the A. And the A is very close, all right? So I'll pull that string out. And the A string is actually a 36 diameter. So once again, I'm going to start with roughly 4 thousandths greater. This is the next size up that I have from 36 is 42. So it's 6 thousandths bigger. And I'm just going to rough that slot. And this ought to just slide in there. It's just like smooth as butter. And it does. We're going to check him again. Very, very close. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop that string off. And that was, again, that was the 42. Let me get my... And now I'm going to use the 36, which is the diameter of the string. This helps the guitar stay in tune. So when you're bending, it's the only place it's got to really bind, so to speak, up here at the nut is right where the string hits the bone. And I'm confident that that is going to be right what I need. Yes, very, very good. That's dead on. All right, now we're going to switch to the next one. The next one, and so now I'm on the D and the G string, and it's 18 thousandths. So I'll get him set. And I raise that A string up, slide him under, and I do get a little bit of movement, so we're going to follow the same process. The D string diameter is 26. So, and really, I'm going to use a 28. And I pulled the wrong one out. Let me see if I've got a. I don't think I. Yes, I do. I pulled the wrong one out. So I'm going to use a 32. A 32 for the wider position. And you notice how that, you know how that's dragging? You probably saw me fighting a little bit. So I'm opening these edges up so that this just rolls right across with very little friction. And raise the A string up. Okay, I definitely don't want to go any farther. In fact, I mean, I'm getting just a little bit of movement there. It's probably sitting, I got just a little aggressive. It's probably sitting about, I'm going to say 16 thousandths maybe. So again, this is a 28. I don't have a 26 gauge for the nut file. So I'm going to use the 28, and I'm going to be very gentle right here. I don't want to, I just want to just give it just a little bit of, a little bit. And that's going to be okay. I'm really, really working on this, and I'm not getting any buzz. Well. All right, so that's going to be good. Now let's check the G string. Got a little bit of movement there that I can get. So I'll pop that G string out, and let me get my files in order again. The G string is a 17 diameter, so I'm going to use a 24 to oversize the start of the slot. And again, looking for that real smooth. And if you've got to work those edges a little bit and round the start off, do that. Because again, we're not using this oversized gauge or nut slot file to give the string a flat to rest on. We're just using this to open up that slot. And I'm happy with the way that's sliding. And let's check him. Right on. I'm happy with that. That's about perfection. So I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to use, I don't have a 17 thickness nut slot file, but I have a 16, so we're going to use that. And again, just light. All you're doing is just giving that last little cut that the string is going to rest in. Rings and no buzz. That's what we're after. All right, so we got 2 more to go, and we're going to switch again one more time. And this is for the B and the high E, and I got to put that string back in. I raise the G string, slide it under, and I see where I'm at. All right, he's really, really close, but we do have a little bit to remove. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that. The B string is a 13 diameter. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the 16 thousandths thickness gauge. And again, I'm making sure I don't have any catches. Any place that I have a catch, that's an opportunity for the string to bind. That's probably going to be just about perfect because I don't have a whole lot to do. And slide him under. I'm going to do just a... Actually, I tell you what, I'm sitting here contemplating, do I do more 16? I'm going to put the 16 away, and I'm going to get the 13 gauge out. Go ahead and blow it out, and we're going to see where we're at. I used just a little extra few passes there. Oh, perfect. I mean, it's just right there. All right, now we're going to check the high E. I raised the B string, run him under there. We've got quite a bit of work on the high E string. So lower him off, and again, the high E is a 10 thousandths, so I'm going to do the majority of the work with the 13 thousandths thickness gauge. And again, it's the same thing. We're really looking to open up this slot. Raise up the B. He's going to need a little more. So you don't have to be super aggressive. Just, a little bit. Now right now I'm focusing right now on this flat spot. So really, if you looked at my gauge, I'm sliding this right on the tape. Running it right on the tape. So I do that first, and I need to open this up a little bit. And now I'm doing the angle. And that's going to be plenty. In fact, if anything, I might have went a little too far. Nope. Oh, I nailed it. So that was the 13, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to finish with the 10. Now when you look at this, and it's like, what in the world did you do? These 10s are so floppy. That I taped it against a thicker one, so now it's much more rigid. And again, my goal right here is just to provide that spot where the string is actually going to rest. And check, and I know he's going to be right on. I almost didn't even check him. Look at that. No buzz. Awesome. Great little tool. Don't be aggressive on the nut slots, and you'll repeat it every single time. All right. I'm going to move the camera over to this side. And we've got one more thing that we need to do here. Let me get it back so you can see me. All right. And that's probably what I want to do there. I'm going to put the clip on, and we're going to tune him back to pitch. Ease right on. Ease right on. Now the other thing that I'm going to do right now is so I'm back to pitch, and I'll pick multiple spots. I want to make sure that I don't have any string buzz anywhere. So and really, I'm not going to do this on camera, but I will hit every string, every fret, and just to make sure that I don't have any buzz. That's just, man, listen to that. Oh, she's big. Awesome. Okay, let's check the pickup height. I have two gauges that I use, because I always set my pickup heights to be exactly the same. So I've got it marked as the treble treble pickup, so that you're going to be your bridge, and then your bass is going to be your neck. And I've just stacked feeler gauges together, and this is 94 thousandths thick, and this is 65 thousandths. So I'm going to use the bass side first, and make sure you guys can see where I'm at here. Maybe I can zoom in a little closer. Okay, so I hold my fingers on the very last fret, and then I check, does this gauge slide under that pole piece? And it's actually really close. Sometimes you get, that happens, I guess. There it is. Looking for my... So what I'm going to do, I'm going to raise this pickup height just a little bit. Oh, that's right. These are vintage style pickups that I'm using. I'm using the Seymour Duncan Seth Lovers, and for this guitar, they're just, I mean, it's as good as it gets. So I'm just going to raise that ever so slightly. I'm going to raise it a little more on the bass string side. And it's right there. And you do this enough times. Okay, see how that gauge, how it's moving that string? I went a little too much, so we're going to loosen this. That's probably what I need. And there, you see how it's sliding in now? Perfect. All right, now I'm gonna catch the treble side, do the same thing, and oh my word, goodness, look at that. And we got all kinds of movement. So we're gonna raise that up quite a bit more. But same thing, hold my fingers there on the last fret. Got to go higher. And that's about perfect. And check it. A little more. Right on. All right. Move the camera back. And we'll just kind of review where we are. All right. That's really the last thing that we need to do is we need to check the intonation. And I probably should have put the electronics in, because I do not trust a clip-on tuner to check intonation. I'll do the first string to show you how I do it, but you really need to use a better tuner than a clip-on to check your intonation. You'll get close, I guess. All right, so that right there is dead on, at least based on right at the E. Come to your 12th fret, and it should be the same E. And actually, so far I've nailed it. Let's go check the A string. All right, he's a little sharp, so we'll dial him down. I'm hoping I can find one, but when I looked at the bridge, I was like, it's probably pretty close. I don't know, it's just that. D's right on. Okay, the D is just a little bit sharp. And you really need a light touch. Actually, I don't know. Like I said, I don't trust these clip-on tuners. Man, that's right in there. Okay, the B's a little sharp. So the B, it's actually pretty close. The B string is just a little sharp, all right? So if you, when you're doing this, the rule of thumb is if you are flat, shorten the string. So I'm sharp, so I want to lengthen that string just a little bit. And of course so I'm gonna pull the string off the saddle, and I am going to lengthen, and I gave it about a half a turn. And it's going to be as accurate as that little snark is, the clip-on. Probably lengthen it even a little more, but I don't trust the snark. All right, one other thing that I want to show, the higher strings. So we'll get this thing tuned back up, and he's gonna be ready to go. So there you have it. That's what it takes to get a pro setup on an electric guitar. And got any questions, comments? Hey, like, subscribe, reach out in the comments, and this is the way I do it. There's other ways that it can be done, other tools that you can use, but you can see that the tools that I'm using are very simple, and yet very effective. If you just take your time, you follow a few of the hard, fast rules that I showed you with the various gauges that we had, you're going to get good results, and your guitar is going to sound better than it ever has. So that's it, everybody. I think next video, leave me a comment. I think what I may do is just go through the process of putting the electronics, or the pots and everything, in this guitar here. And if you've ever put electronics in a semi-hollow body, you know it's quite the event. So if you guys want to see that, leave a comment, or if you got something else you want me to do, leave a comment and I'll add it to the list. Catch y'all guys soon.